Alrighty, welcome back to the PCC Podcast. And today we are going to be talking about a very fun topic, which is people pleasing. Okay, if you are a perfectionist or somebody who identifies with being a high achiever in your life, well, guess what? These things go hand in hand. People pleasing is really sneaky, and that's why I made that the title, how it sneaks up on you in your fitness journey and probably how it's sabotaging you without you even really realizing it. So today we're going to bring awareness to that, and then we're going to give you tools to push back on that, because people pleasing, as we know, is not something that's really productive for either party, and hurts you and your goals in the long run. So before we get into the episode, though, I do want to mention to enter the $100 gift card giveaway. Okay, so we are doing a giveaway to give back to you for celebrating 100 episodes. We launched this giveaway on the 100th episode so that you guys can earn something back from listening to this podcast for free. So if you have enjoyed this show and you listen regularly, then please leave a review, leave a rating. Like, what's holding you back? If you're already listening, then clearly you're getting some value from the show. So 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts will enter you in. You have to do it by October 31st. And then from there, we will choose one winner to draw for a $100 gift card of your choice. Okay. This is the last episode where I will mention it. So go ahead and do that now. And I will see you back here for the episode. Okay, y'all. So let's talk about people pleasing, right? And so the biggest thing here is people pleasing in your health and fitness journey. It can be misunderstood. And I think a lot of coaches out there tend to hyper focus on just say no. And it often leads to us confusing the principle of being able to say no with doing it all the time. And then we because we are perfectionistic, because we are all or nothing, we tend to then assume that saying no means saying no all the time, and that you can't be fit or healthy unless you are literally abandoning other people. And that is not true. And so the key reminder here is that people pleasing in your health, fitness, weight loss journey is not about saying yes too much. It's really just about abandoning yourself in really subtle ways. So ways that this can show up, right, is with yourself, your boundaries around your time or the lack of boundaries around your time and how that sets you up for success or failure, hiding your goals to make others more comfortable or just not talking about your goals, over explaining, ordering to match the room, how we just interact with our partner or have more like codependent habits with our partner rather than independently pursuing our health and fitness and having mutual respect. Overcommitment is another one, having your schedule be so full that you don't have any freaking room to breathe. And saying yes to everything and being burnt out and drained because of it. And then we actually don't end up resenting other people. We end up resenting ourselves. So the reframe here today is going to be that boundaries can be small. They can be challenging, but not so uncomfortable. And they're not selfish. It's about how you stop expecting others to protect what you won't protect yourself. So we're going to break this into a few sections. We're going to break this into significant others. We're going to break this into friends. And then we're going to break this into family, because our people pleasing will show up probably in those areas. And then with the friends one, you can just kind of expand that to like friends plus coworkers / acquaintances if we are talking about the workplace too. Okay. Now, partner, we're going to start with significant other first, right? Husband, boyfriend, wife, girlfriend, etc., whoever you are listening to this. But honestly, this is going to be the closest to home one, right? Because this is going to be the person that either you live with or you see all the freaking time. And if you are single, you don't have to deal with this yet. And that's great. Like, it's just a bonus that you don't have this extra obstacle. And this is also where I see when people get into relationships or they go from living separately to living married, and living together, that these barriers or obstacles start to come up and we need to tackle them head on, right? And so the biggest thing here is When you're making changes in your health and fitness, you're going to notice that your growth bumps up against your partner's comfort. But a lot of times it's not even just their comfort, it's your perception of their comfort. So common patterns that I see with women, specifically our clients, right? High achievers, perfectionists, overthinkers, people who really want everything to always go their way, to go perfectly, is anticipating pushback that hasn't happened yet. So we talked about this on a client call recently, but we talked about like, how are we like projecting some of our own worries and fears onto our partner and preventing ourselves from taking action because of our projections. So for example, like eating the same thing that they're eating, not because they literally asked you to or said, I feel insecure if you don't do this, but we just assume that they will be uncomfortable if we don't eat the same thing. So we don't even approach the idea of having something different, right? Or not talking about your goals or hiding your fitness journey or your goals because we confuse support, meaning like needing to look like engagement, doing it together, right? For example, if we are hiding, talking about I'm tracking my food or I'm trying to eat these kinds of recipes or things like that, are we hiding it because we think that we need them to be on board, like be a part of it, be doing it with us in order for us to talk about it? Or like, can we just talk about it? Say like, this is my goal. Like, you're welcome to join or not, but this is what I want to be doing, right? And I'd love your support. So hiding that for that reason. And yeah, assuming support must look like agreement is another common pattern. So for example, when our partners question what we're doing, a lot of times like, and this is oftentimes our own insecurity, if I'm being totally honest with you, our own insecurity being projected back out. So if your partner sees you weighing your food and says, why are you weighing your food now? We can, and sometimes tone doesn't come off the way that we want it to, and delivery isn't always the greatest, especially from our male partners, right? But they mean well, and they could literally just be curious or confused, or maybe they are sharing it in a way that sounds condescending or judgmental, but they're really just trying to understand or have their own beliefs around that behavior. So if we had the moment to pause and instead of getting defensive or arguing or feeling that this was criticism, if we got curious and invited them in to say, like, what are you wondering about? Or, what might you be making this mean? Or, having them be a part of the conversation. How could that change things, right? Because sometimes that question, why are you tracking your food now? Why are you going to the gym so much? Can just be like unmasked fear. It's just like, I'm just scared of change. I'm uncomfortable with change. People are uncomfortable with change. So when you invite them into that change, here's what I'm doing. Here's why. Here's what's going on. Here's like the things that I'm working on. Like, I'd love your support in this. Sometimes the questions are not an attack. They are someone being afraid of change and trying to understand and get more comfortable with whatever's going on, right? So if you invite that in, it could honestly change the dynamic of the conversation a lot. And then another common mistake I see with partners is using their comfort as permission. So for example, if they're on board, I'll do it. But if not, maybe I shouldn't. And I think the reminder here is very simple. Support is a bonus. Permission is not required. It is not their responsibility to be on board with whatever you want for yourself. Whether you are dating, you are married, you do have your own growth path regardless. Support is honestly very helpful, and it's very hard to go through a fitness journey when you don't have support. But support is not the same thing as permission, right? And so when we're talking about like making changes to the way that we eat or we cook or we go on walks or we do these things, right? Even if they are not comfortable with it or not willing to do it themselves, that doesn't mean that we can't. right? And sometimes that, like with women especially, because we often take a more passive role, or we try to keep the peace in our household and we take responsibility over that. A lot of times it takes us doing the thing regardless of other people's discomfort in order for other people to be like willing to change. For example, with my relationship, now we're married for 3 years. When we started dating over 7 years ago, I was I was fresh out of bodybuilding. I was tracking my macros. I was really lean. I was pretty neurotic. And I just did my thing because I was a little ignorant at the time of like, I've been single for a long time. I'm just not going to compromise myself for other people because I don't even know. Like at the time, I was like, I don't even know if I like this guy that much. and, um, and honestly, because I was so headstrong in what I was doing, he eventually, like 6 months later, was like, I want to try this tracking macros thing. I'm interested. And it was because I never wavered. But if I had wavered and let myself change because of someone else's discomfort or my perception of their discomfort of what I was doing, well, then I might have never gotten that sort of curiosity from him. He might not be where he is today with his fitness journey. He's had his own 60-pound weight loss and keeping it off for the past couple of years that we're both super proud of. And none of that would have happened without me just kind of doing me, right? And then lastly, just a big mistake I see with partners is creating an us versus me energy, right? And so, for example, if the partner is picking up something or wanting to spend quality time together, creating a division within the household, like I can't eat that. I have to go to the gym. Language is important. It sounds restrictive to say that, right? So reframe it collaboratively. Like, hey, I would really love to eat what you are picking up right now, but I really want to make a decision that is in alignment with my goals too. I'm feeling kind of conflicted, but I'm thinking of having this instead and eating from home. You are welcome to still order that, but I don't think I'm going to add myself into that, right? Or I would love to spend quality time together. I also do want to make sure that I make time for my gym goal and follow through on that goal for this week. My goal is 3 times this week. So is today a day where I should move my schedule around and get my 3 days in otherwise? Or is today a day where it doesn't matter so much and I can just go to the gym and come back and spend quality time with you after, right? Reframing it collaboratively, giving them a say, but not basing it off of permission, right? There's hard non-negotiables like I am sticking to my nutrition goals. I am going to the gym 3 times this week, but I'm flexible on exactly how that looks, right? And I want to bring you into the conversation for how that looks. And we were talking about this in our client call where like I got the idea for this topic and I was kind of sharing like, hey, one of my biggest tips with your partner is like if you are feeling the urge to people please, if you are feeling the urge to sacrifice your own goals for someone else's comfort, verbalize it. Just go, hey, partner name, I am struggling with this decision to go to the gym right now or spend quality time with you. I really want to meet my goals for this week, but at the same time, I don't want to just leave you sitting here alone. And that's what's going on in my head right now. Can I have some reassurance from you or thoughts from you? Like, what are you really thinking about this situation? And like every single time that I have done that with my husband, Aaron, he's been like, go to the gym. I don't care. I'm just going to watch TV. It's fine. And like literally that's the response every single time. And then I get the reinforcement of like, why am I projecting out this like discomfort from him? And it's because like we have programming in us that goes really deep. And sometimes we don't always have the ability to explain it. But that really resonated with all the women that I was talking to is they were like, yeah, my partner's kind of the same way. Like he always just wants me to do exactly what I need to do for myself. And if I just verbalized it, I would get that sort of verbalization. And if you do get pushback, right, then that's our opportunity to be curious and to dig a little bit deeper with them and collaborate. But typically, if we have a partner that loves us in a healthy relationship, then we're not going to have somebody holding us back from reaching our goals or going to the gym. So that is what it can look like for our relationships. Now, let's talk friends, social settings. This can also lump in like coworkers, right? And so this is where I think people pleasing sneaks in the loudest, because we don't have that inherent like deep level of comfort with these people as we do with our partner. And belonging is a biological need, a subconscious need that we have as human beings. So we want to fit in, right? We want to have a friend group. We want to have connection. And things that can threaten that are things like being different, making different choices, etc. And so what typically happens, right, is like I'm crushing my plan all week and then I go out to dinner and then my brain is just like, don't be the weird one. You should get a drink too. Everyone else did, right? And so questions to be asking yourself in these situations is really just rerouting back to yourself, right? And I always, when I work with clients through situations like this, social settings, alcohol, food, whatever, and the situation changes. I have a few clients right now that are like actively trying to make friends, going to clubs and meetups and things where it's like you're making first impressions. And that's hard because like, do you want your first impression to be so different from everyone else? And if you were to ask me specifically, I would say, yeah, I honestly like, I thrive in that. Like if I'm the only one in the room that's not drinking, I want people to ask me questions about that. I want people to be curious. I want that to set me apart. But I'm also an Enneagram 3 wing 4 where I like to be different. So, so that is a personality thing as well. But also like it kind of speaks to how are we assigning like what is a valuable trait in a friend or a human being, right? So like for me, like am I assigning nobility to sobriety, right? And so other people probably assign like weirdness to sobriety, right? And so those are the things that we're projecting. And so that's why I have a positive association with being the odd one out, where other people might have a negative association with that, right? And my association here, this was built over time. I didn't always feel this way. But but with that being said, I always bring it back to what do you actually want as the client? Like if you want to drink, cool. But don't just drink because other people are if you don't want to, right? Like there's no wrong answer here. And the biggest thing is like when we are talking health and fitness journey and our choices there, the thing that derails us is not having the drink or the couple of drinks. And most people, honestly, when you ask them what they really want, they want a balance. They want to have some alcohol, but they also don't want to overdo it. So there's almost never a situation where I'm talking to a client and they're like, yeah, I just really want to binge drink all the time. Like they're not in coaching with me because they don't have those desires, right? They want the balance. But the thing is that we're so out of touch with that because we're focused on appeasement. We're focused on keeping the peace, not being different, right? And so things to ask yourself is just rooting back to you, your values, what's important to you, and remembering that the people that are meant to be your friends are going to stick around or be attracted to you, even if you make those choices, right? And trusting that things will work out, right? Even if that means you do lose some friends in the process or you do drift away from certain people because of those choices. And that is a consequence of living a healthy lifestyle, but not to the degree that I think most people think is like cut your friend group off because they drink. Like, no. But might there be a little bit of distance because you no longer value it in the same degree? Possibly, right? Or do you choose to only hang out with these people in certain circumstances? So, questions to ask yourself: am I choosing from alignment or appeasement? Am I matching the room or am I matching my own needs? And what do I actually want from this moment, right? Connection, food, relaxation, especially with like vacations. I always ask people, like, what kind of rest and restoration are you actually looking for from this vacation? Because if we flip the switch and we go vacation mode and we just overdo it, we end up coming back feeling like we got to make up for it, guilty, shameful. Like that's not restorative, right? So what do I actually want from this? I want connection. I want relaxation. How can I get that without sabotaging myself, right? So how to navigate these situations? Number one, set intentions ahead of time, right? It doesn't mean you have to journal 10 pages. Just know, like, What are my anchors? Like, what are my intentions? Am I having one drink? Am I having two? Where am I setting my cap? Am I going to order something with more protein so I can be more full? And giving myself the permission slip. If I want dessert and it's worth it, I will have it. If it is not worth it, I will have a bite and I will put my fork down, right? And just making the decision ahead of time can take the thought out of it. Another hack here is order first. Like when the waiter's kind of coming around, you can kind of wave them over and order first instead of last, because then you are creating the peer influence, not reducing it, not working against it, right? So if everyone orders an alcoholic beverage and you're last and you're like, can I just have a Diet Coke and a water, please? Yeah, you're going to feel a little different. But if you start, can I have a Diet Coke and a water, please? Someone else has to be the first one to order alcohol. And you can literally set the tone. So that's a big one. And then practice saying no calmly and without over explaining. No is a full sentence, right? And the biggest thing is I don't want people confusing the principle of empowering yourself with the practice. What I mean by that is that when you hear a fitness coach say no to the drink, to the food, we extrapolate that to mean that like you cannot have it. Do not have it. It is bad to. My stance is I don't care what you choose, but if you don't have the ability to say no, then you're not in the driver's seat, right? And I am all for empowering you to be in the driver's seat. So I want you to practice saying no in low stakes situations so that you know that you can, not because you need to do it all the time, right? And then remember, finally, that belonging does not require blending. So your true friends do not need proof of connection from you through food or alcohol. And truly, if they do, that is data on them, not a reflection on you. Lastly, we have culture and family. Okay, so this is a hot topic in my circles. So in many cultures, right, especially Asian, Latinx, and just like collectivist ones in general, like Asian cultures especially, I know the actual culture of the country is more collectivist and focused on respecting your elders. And so it can make saying no feel like a betrayal, right? And the joke is like you don't say, not the joke, but like the kind of colloquial thing that's like in Asian circles when I'm talking to clients or friends, it's like, yeah, you don't say no to your mother-in-law's cooking. You don't say no to grandma's cooking, right? And I know this firsthand. Like I used to feel torn between honoring family versus honoring my own choices. But you can do both, but it just takes new language, right? And it's learning how to do it in a way that's not disrespectful, over explaining, things like that, right? So ways to honor both could be things like leading with appreciation before the boundary. So, wow, this looks amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And then I'll start with a small plate so I can savor it. And that might be a flip from like, feeling like you have to fill your plate up because you are actually being intentional to savor the food. You can also use later instead of no, right? Of I'm full right now, but I'd love to take leftovers home for later, right? And excitement around that. I'd love to have more for later. Like, could you pack some up for me? The love language can also be there, right? For the parent, the grandparent. And then you can also just focus on your own mindful eating skills. So eating slower, smaller portions, chewing more times before you swallow, things like that. And you can also, like, this is an option and it depends on your family dynamic, of course, if this is going to launch you into people asking you 50 questions or if it's just going to be like, okay, cool, like whatever. Like you can play around with this one, but you can pre-frame before gatherings by saying like, I've been working on listening to my body more. So I might eat a little bit lighter tonight. I had a protein shake before this, right? If you start out with that, you've now set the intention of like, this is what it's going to look like for this person. And people might act more within that mold. And then lastly, remember the big picture. Even if you do overeat at a family meal, or literally none of this works because your family is stubborn and maybe they're immigrants and they don't like, there's a language barrier or things like that, one meal is not going to hurt your progress. It's literally the spiral that follows the guilt that does, right? It's the spiral of, I overate, I messed up, I must have messed up so bad that I'm not going to make progress, so I'm not going to try for the rest of the weekend. That's what ruins progress. So remember that even if you give these things a go and they don't work out perfectly, that's not what's ruining your progress. Jumping back on track, even if you did overeat or don't feel 100% about how you ate in those situations with family, that is also very important to remember. So that is the 3 sections. And I hope that this just gave you some reminders that people pleasing in fitness is sneaky because it hides behind having balance, keeping the peace, connection, being easygoing, personality traits that we value, and ways that we want to appease others in a relationship, whether it be a friendship, coworkers, friends, etc. But I think real balance that is sustainable, in my opinion, is built on honesty with yourself, connecting with yourself, knowing your own values and honoring those, because that builds self-trust. And if you have self-trust in the long run, you're going to be happier and more fulfilled versus neglecting and abandoning yourself for the sake of others' comfort, where they might not even need that. So, questions you can ask yourself to kind of wrap this up is, where am I shrinking to make other people comfortable? Who am I afraid of disappointing or having friction with by honoring my goals? And where might I be confusing approval with connection? Because when you stop abandoning yourself for acceptance, you're going to finally create the peace that you've been chasing through control. So remember that. And I hope that this helps you to remember that you can be kind, clear, and still have boundaries, and you can still love other people and lead yourself. So that is people pleasing, boundaries. Let me know what this resonated with you on, what topic was really the one that hit home the most for you. And as always, we appreciate your attention and your time with this episode. If you did enjoy it, again, enter the rating and review giveaway by October 31st, and we'll see you back here in the next episode.